This is the Outlap F1 podcast featuring America's own Cody, Andy, and Deanna. Your one-stop shop for Formula One news, insights, race previews, and reviews. Join us on the Outlap.
Well, that was certainly one way to handle it. Oh, Lord, we've got our finale. Welcome on in. This is season 7. This is episode number 46. I actually got the episode number right this time. It's our 2025 Qatar GP review show. You've got Andy, and I'm along with Cody tonight. Cody, we did some hanging out over the course of the weekend, but not since race day. So I assume you're probably a lot higher up on the old mood meter than I am at the moment, but how's it going?
Yeah, based on the racing, I'm on cloud 9. Based on the fact that I'm coming back to work today after what was a nice 5-day long holiday weekend, that part was a little rough. But getting back in the swing of things and really looking forward to Abu Dhabi.
Oh, we some of us are looking forward to it. I feel like this is a slow march to death at this point. But anyway, we'll tell you why I feel like that in just a little bit. But anyway, yeah, I mean, here in Chicago, we are dealing with yet another bit of snow. So at least Abu Dhabi will make me try to feel warm for at least a little while. But anyway, we'll see what happens this weekend. But if you have found our show, as always, welcome along. We're glad that you're here. You can find us on X, on Instagram, Discord, sometimes on Reddit. But we like to always post at least the audio, at least to YouTube. At Outlap F1 Podcast is the handle for all that. If you're on YouTube and you like what you're seeing or you enjoy what you're hearing, you can either click the like button or subscribe to the channel. If you're on your favorite podcasting app and you, again, enjoy what we talk about, a 5-star review will definitely help us, this show, come up a little bit better in the algorithm's search results, which is why everyone asks you to do all that stuff. If you'd like to email the show, outlapf1@gmail.com. We'll get your thoughts to us. Thank you so much to our continued supporters. These people are awesome people. Y'all know the list. Dean Warwick, Yuri Dolchester, Paul Weaver, Quentin Warden, Kevin Kelly, Regan Stanzik, Timothy Brown, and of course, Jonathan Scott. If you'd like to join that esteemed list, there is an Anchor link in our show notes. Do you have to do it? No, we're just glad you're listening. But if you'd like to donate a little bit to the show, we would definitely appreciate it. Just goes into keeping our technology relevant, keeping it up to date in this ever-changing tech world that we live in. All right, particulars now out of the way. We'll start with our headlines of the day. Cody, I'll let you go first. What you got?
Going straight into the point this time. What the fuck is happening? It started off as a joke, and I think I've said this before, too. Back in the summertime when Max Verstappen won in Italy and then won again in Azerbaijan, we were all like, yeah, haha, wouldn't it be really funny if he made the comeback? We're here now. He is 12 points behind after the second weekend with McLaren blunders in a row. It is not even a long shot at this point. It is a regular old shot at the championship. All he has to do is win, and Lando finishes 4th or lower. Could have been 3rd or lower if we were just a little bit more lucky on the Max fan side, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But this is well within the realm of possibility now. Like we've talked about the long shot thing for a little while now, and we're not there anymore. My emotions as a Max fan have been like this for like the past 6 races. It's on again. Oh, it's over. It's on again. Oh, it's over. And now it's on. And my fingers are crossed.
Well, my headline is yeah. What the hell was that? I mean, seriously, what the fuck was that? I don't know. I've tried to contain it for the last 24 plus hours. I don't know what to say. I don't know what why'd you do this? So let's just say what happened.
You broke Andy.
Yeah, I was going to say, I really don't know. I don't have anything good to say. Like, I keep going back to, like, Apollo 13, where the spaceship is busted, and Gene Kranz looks over at his team and he goes, so let's just look at this from a concept of status. What do we got on the ship that's good? And everybody looks around at each other. Nobody wants to say anything. And then somebody just goes, I'll get back to you, Gene, and then clicks off the mic. That's kind of where I am right now. I don't understand how you take a 1-2 with a fast car that's made for that track and turn that into the absolute mess that you did, strategy-wise. The other thing, tell me what was good. Tell me what the positive points are about not pitting in the gifted safety car that makes all the strategy straightforward. Don't get it. I've been racking my brain, I think, for the past 24 plus hours trying to figure out what was good about it. Like, what did it enable you to do? Like they said in the race, it gives us flexibility. To do what? Explain it to me like I'm 6 years old. What was if that strategy was going to work out, what was working with that strategy? Because I've been watching races for a long ass time. I don't get it. I still don't get it. I usually can try to figure something out. There's an angle here. No, I don't get it. So now you're in it. Now you're in it now. And here we go. All right, fine. Annoyed.
No
You
kidding.
can't tell. But anyway, this is my second therapy session recording in a row, and I really don't want a third. But
Well, the
we
third,
might get
if
there.
we get to a third, that's going to be like the creme de la creme of therapy.
I just knock the camera over, and y'all see the crash out video, and next thing you know, 80 million people have seen my face. No, I don't want that. No, actually, in reality, no, don't want that. But anyway, we're going to take you through the course of the Qatar GP weekend that was. We'll take you through the sprint. We'll take you to the sprint quali. We'll take you to the main qualifying. We'll talk about the race. We'll talk about the obvious thing that changed it all around. And then we'll look forward to, here we go with the Abu Dhabi finale. This is what they pay for. I guess the Emirati are dancing in, I don't know if they dance in the streets or where they dance, but they're dancing somewhere because they get to have their finale. So
dancing in the desert.
Yeah, I guess so. So we'll rewind back first, all the way back to Friday. Remember Friday, a long time ago. And the sprint quali that saw, and I think I finally got the sound to work right. So here we go. All right. So going out in P20 in the sprint quali, that was the Alpine of Franco Colapinto. P19 was Pierre Gasly. Alpine's not looking good early. P18. Boy, I mean, McLaren had a bad weekend, let's not be honest, but it's not the bad weekend that Lewis Hamilton had. We can at least say that. P18 in the sprint quali, that would be a harbinger of things to come. P17, Liam Lawson. P16 was Lance Stroll. Advancing Q to Q2, but going through to Q2, but going no farther. P15 was Esteban Ocon. P14, Nico Hulkenberg. P13 was Gabby Bortoletto. P12, Ollie Behrman. P11 was Isaac Hadjar. P10, Alex Albon. P9 was Charles Leclerc. P8, Carlos Sainz, the start of good things for Williams here. P7 was Kimi Antonelli. P6, this was a surprise to me, for sure. Only able to get P6 Max Verstappen in the Red Bull at this point. P5, the first time this has happened. Yuki Tsunoda out-qualifies Max Verstappen in a Red Bull. Good Lord. But it did happen here. P5. P4, Fernando Alonso in the Aston Martin. P3 was Lando Norris. We will talk about his SQ3 adventure. P2 was George Russell, and in P1, remember this guy? We all thought we completely wrote him off, but boy, did he come out guns a-blazing early. Oscar Piastri, a 120.055, the lap time. All right. Cody, big thoughts here in the sprint quali.
Well, this was a beginning of a lot of themes we were going to see throughout the weekend. First of which is that Oscar Piastri really goes well at this track. He has been successful the entire time that he's raced around Qatar since coming to Formula One, and he continued that trend here. I guess it was pretty close with George Russell in this session, but out in front, first time he's been out in front of a competitive session in a little while now. Hopefully put a little bit of wind back in his sail at this point. Some of the things that we saw start with this session was the woes of Lewis Hamilton and really Ferrari in general. I imagine they can't wait for the season to be over at this point. Lewis Hamilton only out-qualifying the Alpines, which is pretty sad. Charles Leclerc just, barely squeezing into Q3 here. Yeah, Max Verstappen out-qualified by Yuki Tsunoda, struggling with the setup on the car. We've seen that several times over the last few races, and really has been a continued issue throughout the season. And this was the point in the weekend where I was going, no, shit, it's over, isn't it? Was ready to, once he qualified 6th, I was ready to flip this one off and be like, God, here we go.
Oh, come on. We just love to, invite people back into parties here. That's how we roll. Yeah, I mean, the initial read was that this was going to be a McLaren favorable track. It certainly looked that way early. Sector 3 in particular were looking really good for the two McLarens, both Lando and Oscar. Oscar definitely having the edge. Lando not exactly did, and maybe this is just a harbinger of things to come. Maybe we should have read the tea leaves a little bit better, but odd things already starting. Like normally the time for SQ3 happens and everybody goes out and lines up in the queue. And for some odd reason, Lando Norris stayed in the garage. So they let everybody go out and start their lap. And now Lando's kind of off kilter in terms of his qualifying lap. Now, you got to get your one banker in. He definitely does that. He sets a pretty good time, but he does not have enough time to come around after that one lap and attempt to set a second time. However, Oscar Piastri and George Russell and even Fernando Alonso did and improved. So Lando looked like he was on for potential sprint pole. George Russell pips him. And then Oscar Piastri takes it. Now there's the shot of the McLaren garage that I've seen them all across social media and everybody going crazy. And look, that is the Lando side of the garage. They're obviously pissed at somebody who made the wrong call there. The team was not, I don't know what happened with the timing call or who made the decision to just leave him in there, but I think they were more upset that Russell pipped him more than anything else. But the team was more, Zach Brown was there. He was more than happy for Piastri. And so was I actually at that point. I'm like, good. It's good to see him back with it again for a guy who's looked like a lost puppy. It's felt like the last 6 races to finally see him getting back into form a little bit and able to do at a track that should suit him. Okay, reset. Let's dig back in and let's see what we can do. But anyway, I think that it was at least what I saw the explanation for it. But that's why Lando didn't challenge much for the pole here. Other notable mentions, obviously, we talked a little bit about Yuki Tsunoda. It feels a little bit too late at this point for him. There's the worst kept secret right now in the F1 paddock is that Isaac Hadjar has the seat at Red Bull and Yuki Tsunoda is basically out. Look for an announcement Wednesday, Thursday this week. It apparently seems to be what it's going to be. That's already kind of been reported. It's already been published. It just hasn't been announced yet. So, a little bit too late there. But, and then the painful thing for the Ferraris, man. Woo, boy, did this track not suit them for a track that they were really competitive at last year. This one's a surprise to me that they were so off. All right, so we'll move into Saturday, and we'll talk about the sprint that was. There's not a whole lot to talk about here, but we'll take you through the results. All right, your sprint finishing order from the P20 to P1. P20 was Franco Colapinto, P19 Lance Stroll, P18 Pierre Gasly, P17 Lewis Hamilton, P16 Nico Hulkenberg. Sound familiar? This is very much the qualifying order. P15 was Esteban Ocon, P14 Liam Lawson, P13, this was a bit of a surprise, Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari. P12, Ollie Behrman. P11, Gabby Bortoleto. P10, Alex Albon. And P9 was Isaac Hadjar. Your points finishers from the sprint. P8 was Carlos Sainz in the Williams. P7, Fernando Alonso. P6, Kimi Antonelli. P5 was Yuki Tsunoda. P4 was Max Verstappen, who probably had the most delta of anybody on the grid for the sprint. P3 was Lando Norris. P2 was George Russell. And in P1, got off the line and pretty much drove away. Not a ton, but enough to get it done. Oscar Piastri in the McLaren. All right. Cody, any big thoughts here from the sprint? This one was pretty bad.
Yeah. From the start, Yuki Tsunoda actually had some pretty slick moves. He gets by Fernando Alonso. Max Verstappen does as well, and then he gives up the spot to Max, and he did that all in the course of a couple turns. Actually, rewatching it, it was some pretty good moves on his part, and you knew that he was going to let Max by as soon as he possibly could. But that was the most interesting part of this sprint. It was really freaking boring. I checked out after the first couple laps. Nothing happened. We didn't really get a whole lot of changes from the qualifying order. The sense that I get is that Qatar looks like a really fun track to drive a car around. It's high speed. There's a lot of high speed turning sections. There's a lot of good turning sections. It looks like it's probably a lot of fun, but it doesn't jive well with Formula One. Probably better for motorcycles.
Yep.
But what we saw here is that, at least with this current generation of cars, it's really hard to pass. And there's the issue with the tires, which, you only have 25 laps that they could use the tires on. And, that doesn't really come into play in the sprint. Sprint pretty much takes most of the strategy out of the window anyway. It's just whatever tires you start on. But everyone chooses pretty much the same tires in the sprint. So, yeah, after those first couple laps, nothing happened. Fortunately, Lando only gains 1 point on Max, but that makes the difference 25 points after the sprint race, which means that Max Verstappen needs to outscore Lando Norris in some way during the course of the Qatar Grand Prix, or else he's out of it.
So, yeah, I mean, pretty much it was not a very entertaining sprint. I mean, you had a couple things that, just to add to your point. One, it's completely flat. So, and two, it's also very, very dusty offline, as was evidenced by when anybody went anywhere that wasn't cleaned up by the track. So you have one line, which you have any grip on. You have one DRS zone that, quite frankly, is way too short, that for some reason the powers that be sought to shorten it a couple years ago. Doesn't make any sense. And now you've added these gravel traps, which, while I admire the idea of doing gravel traps, don't make sense. Like, okay, I mean, it's great for qualifying and it's great for track limits, and track limits are an issue here. I'll grant you there, but it doesn't conduce itself well. So yeah, not exactly sure. So yeah, I mean, it pretty much was, wherever you started was pretty much going to be where you finish. I give Max credit for getting a couple moves done there early. He goes from 6th to 4th, but the top 3 were pretty much in the same order. They all kind of got off the line together. Lando had a decent start, not a great start, had a half of a move on George, but wasn't going to stick it in there where he would have. I mean, he's got way too much to lose. If he crashes out, it's a bigger problem for him. So I think he was going to take what he could get and kind of be done with it there. And that was kind of the sprint. All right. So we put the sprint for the year to bed. I guess that's kind of it for that format. We'll see it again next year in some odd places. Like, if this is a harbinger of what we're going to see in Singapore, yikes.
Oh my God. Can you imagine if they had Singapore and Qatar, both sprint races? I would be crying. It would be.
It is not a knock against those venues or the people who go to those venues or anything like that.
No, not at all. They just don't work for the sprint format.
Right. If you don't have a place where you can overtake, you should not have a sprint. It's just kind of that should be the rule. But anyway, I digress. We'll fix that another time. But anyway, we'll then reset. The cars come out of park for May. You get to tweak them. You get to do it basically ever you want, as long as you get yourself back within the rules by the time you come out for qualifying. So a couple hours later, we had our main quali, which saw... All right. Well, it didn't get a whole lot better for Franco Colapinto. He continues to set his place in the grid in P20. P19 was Lance Stroll. P18 again was Lewis Hamilton. P19 was Esteban Ocon. P16 not out-qualifying Max Verstappen this time. That was Yuki Tsunoda in the Red Bull. And just an awesome rant at the end of his Q1 session there. Advancing through the Q2, but going no farther. P15, Alex Albon. P14, Gabby Bortoletto. P13, Oliver Behrman. P12 was Liam Lawson, and P11 was Nico Hulkenberg. The top 10 from 10 to 1. They can get into Q3, but just barely was Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari. P9 where did this come from? Pierre Gasly, Alpine rises up in main quali. Puts it in Q3. P8, Fernando Alonso. P7, Carlos Sainz. P6 was Isaac Hadjar. P5 was Kimi Antonelli. P4 was George Russell. And here's your championship protagonists all together. P3, Max Verstappen. P2, Lando Norris. And in P1, he does go faster than the sprint quali. 19.387 was Oscar Piastri. All right. I almost timed that perfectly with the sound, but of course, just not in the cards there for me. I'll probably fix that in the edit. But anyway, Cody, big thoughts here in the main quali.
On the plus side, Max Verstappen was looking a little bit better. He managed to get onto the second row this time. On the downside, the gap between him and McLaren's was still quite the gulf. You had Oscar Piastri ahead of Lando Norris by over a tenth at this point, almost 0.3 up on Max Verstappen. So again, was not feeling particularly hopeful going into the race. Pretty good out showing from Carlos Sainz. Still pretty good for Fernando Alonso, though not quite as good as the sprint. But yes, again, Lewis Hamilton, 18th place, not finding anything else between him and Ferrari for the main qualifying. Again, I'm pretty sure they just want to leave this season behind, put it to bed, pretend it didn't happen, go into this new set of regulations with the hope that things will be different this time.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard some Fred Vasseur team principal presser basically saying that even though like Williams made it pretty obvious that they were one of the first ones to stop the 25 and go to 26, I think Ferrari were like the second ones and they just didn't really tell anybody. They had an update plan. They kind of scrapped it. And so they've kind of just been getting on with what they got. And obviously this is a circuit that does not suit the car that they have anymore. So yeah, it was just, yeah, you don't like to see Lewis get that far down. And I keep trying to tell everybody like, look, this was just supposed to be a gravy year. He got his sprint win. That was cool. And if he had some chances here and there, that was kind of what you were looking for. I did not expect him to come out guns a-blazing going for the championship because this has not been his formula. It just hasn't. And he'll be thrilled to take that car and do like Jenson Button and light it on fire like the Honda engine in Brazil from a few years ago. He may want to go do that, and I wouldn't blame him, to be honest with you, at this point. But looking at the top three, I thought all three of our championship protagonists dug deep to try to get lap time out of their respective cars. I think Max got the most he was going to get out of it. Lando, for a minute there, I thought maybe he had done one of those just crazy great laps, but he only got one attempt at it because he made a mistake going into his final attempt and had to abort the laps. This was a place of track evolution after Piastri's on the higher ground, and he was flying and ends up a 119.387 pipping Lando's lap at the end. So it is a McLaren 1-2, at least at the front for here, with Max right in the mix. All right. Any other big thoughts? I mean, I got to be impressed with Carlos Sainz. Still got to be impressed with Fernando Alonso doing things with the Aston Martin that just, it's so telling the difference between him and his teammate. Daddy Stroll, if you're listening, it may be time to fire your son. I really don't understand anymore. This just looks so bad. And then we didn't even talk about the other Aston Martin stuff. Oh, by the way, Andy Cowell's out at team principal, and Adrian Newey, of all people, is in as team principal in a move that just, again, I look at it, this was an entire weekend of it does not compute. Like, I look at it and I go down the list of what I think is rational. Adrian Newey to Aston Martin, to me, doesn't compute because he's always been the kind of hippie designer. I come in at 3 p.m. I stay till 3 a.m. I don't do media. I don't do this other stuff. The theory I've heard that maybe has some traction is maybe this is a temp job, but it's clearly not going to be Christian Horner. That's been reported and that's already been extinguished. But Cody, your thoughts on Aston Martin and qualifying and anything else?
Yeah. Interjecting with a little bit of news since we didn't have our usual preview for Qatar. I kind of had the same reaction. I was seeing all the little news segments about Christian Horner is linked to Aston Martin and literally every other team on the grid because he's desperate to get back in. And I was like, yeah, okay. Like I could see Aston Martin throw in some big money at him in the hopes that they can put the dream team back together or something like that, because apparently Adrian Newey and Christian Horner don't really have any more bad blood between them. But then, yeah, the announcement comes out that Adrian Newey is team principal, and I kind of was like, what the hell? Really?
Like you reread it twice. Like I was just happened to be as it was breaking, and I'm reading. I'm like, wait a minute, no, these are credible people. They know what they're talking about, and it's like all the ones that you would expect to have the story. And then like 10 minutes later, the phone goes off, and my Formula One updates app says breaking Adrian Newey to lead at Aston Martin, and it just again, I don't get it, but okay. We'll see what that looks like.
Yeah. As far as the qualifying goes, though, really saw a lot of the same themes that we saw in the sprint, punching above their weight for Carlos Sainz, Fernando Alonso, McLaren looking very strong as we expected them to be at this track. Max Verstappen and Red Bull working some magic on the car setup in between the sprint and the regular qualifying session, but not really getting there enough to be that competitive. I mean, like they're best of the rest compared to the McLarens, but like I said, Piastri was like 0.3 up on Max, so I didn't really have much hope for it.
Yep, that was kind of that's what should have happened. That is where now we leave the realm of what we thought, what should have made sense, and we're going to step into the weird realm of the hour and what was his winning time? 1 minute, 1 hour, 24 minutes and 38 seconds of what I'm just going to call one of the weirdest Grand Prix from my perspective that I've watched. I've never seen a team commit more ritual suicide than what we're about to talk about. But anyway, I think it's just better to just get into it and rip it off. It's not where really anybody finished. It's about what happened in the race. So we knew because of this weird ass tire rule, and we talked about it in our Vegas review, that we said, now you're going into a race where you got this weird ass thing that you're going to have to deal with. And the strategy seemed to be, it was 57 lap race. Anything after lap 7, you can come in and change your tire. And it was going to be either 25-25-7 or some sort of permutation of that. Lo and behold, Nico Hulkenberg and Ollie Behrman, or was it Hulkenberg?
No, it was Hulkenberg and Gasly.
Gasly got together, ironically enough, right on lap 7 or on lap 6, and cause a full safety car. So that you would think in your head would just say, oh, this is now takes the tire thing and turns it into Monaco. We just go stop here, change tires, stop 25 laps later, put on a hard tire, get to the end of race. And that was the plan for 18 out of the 20 drivers, with the exception of the 2 teams that wear this logo on my head. Okay, that's the thing you can make. And when I first saw it, I said, okay, I guess. And I'm like, then you watch the timing and you just see that the only guy who didn't take it with the McLarens was Esteban Ocon. And I'm like, okay, that's got to be a Haas Hail Mary for track position thing that they're going to do. Maybe it holds Max Verstappen up. But then the guy who had even gotten a 5-second penalty decides on the next lap, even though he's going all the way to the back, to then come in and box. And so now you got the 2 McLarens looking at each other like, what the hell just happened? Lando comes on the radio and says, should we not just follow Max in? The explanation he's given is it gives us flexibility and now we know what they're going to do. And I'm like, okay, yeah, but it's a safety car.
Everyone's going to do what you should be doing.
Right. It's a safety car. You have to now figure out a way to steal 26 seconds because that's the pit stop delta. And that means you got to run your car. Granted, you got a fast car, but you got to run it uber fast for a very long time on a track that's demanding. And oh, by the way, when you do that, you expose your tires to all of this weird micro puncture crap that happens. And you got to make sure that you're doing this now perfect. It's got to be perfect from here on out. And that's exactly what didn't happen. It kind of worked in the first stint. They came in right when they had to. They got out in front of Fernando Alonso, who had made it enough of the gap to where, like, the big DRS train, they didn't get caught up in that. But now that meant that their critical laps, where they had the fresher tire, were now going to be in traffic as opposed to clean air. And we've said many times, I've said this all year, McLaren car in clean air, I like it. McLaren car in traffic, not so much. And that's exactly what happened in the second stint. And then the 7 laps go by, and I think what they had to have thought that someone was going to trip over each other in the pit stops. Or they had no faith in their own guys that they could do a double stack. That is the only rational explanation I can figure out in the day that since I've watched this thing that makes any sense. And of course, nobody has any problems in the pit stops. All the Formula One teams execute because they're Formula One teams, and that's what they should do. And then you end up with, like, okay, Oscar is now coming over the radio. Like, I think they were going to they were trying to get to soft tires, but they had to then do another, I think, 8 or 9 laps on the set of mediums. And whatever the second set of mediums was, it didn't work. It just did not work. And the fact that they were going to stick with it when you could clearly see on the timing, like Max actually gets all the way to Lando's bumper. He's a pit stop up. And it's like, well, at some point, all you can do is put on the other set of hard tires and try to chase everybody down. That was not going to work. It was 16 seconds, the delta to Max. Oscar Piastri put in some amazing laps, but it was never going to be enough. You did not give them enough time. Like, once you bailed too late. Like, what the again, like every decision just cascaded on itself and led to, congratulations, you let Max Verstappen take this win without having to make a track on track at a venue that you can't overtake on. Congratulations, you completely fucked it up. I can't say any more than that.
They absolutely fucked it up. Had the pit stop sequences gone normally, McLaren would have run away with this. I don't know if necessarily Max would have, since Max got Lando at the start, and put him in that more dirty air, I'm not sure. Maybe Max could have finished second on the road, maybe. But Oscar would have run away with that for sure. He looked great all weekend, way up in pace on everybody else. Should have run away with that. But that strategy call was definitely a blunder. And like you said, it's got to be something like they're worried about the track position, or they're worried about not being in control of when they're going to pit for the rest of the race, because, they know that pretty much they've got to do, it's 50 laps left and you've got to do one more stop. And you can only do the 25 laps. So you know what lap you got to stop on. It's the same lap as everybody else pretty much. So maybe that makes them uncomfortable, but ultimately, I think it goes back to the weird obsession with being super fair that McLaren's had all season, where it's going to be a double stack. The driver in front's going to get the advantage on that because they're the first one in there. And we saw a little bit of track position get lost. Like, I think
Russell suffered a little bit from it. Yeah.
Lost some positions because of needing to double stack behind Antonelli. And Antonelli sat in the box for a while because he had to wait for traffic to go by so he could get out with a safe release and all that.
But
so
here's the counter to that, though. You're in P1 constructor position. You're in the best spot to do a double stack. Mm-hmm. There's video of Mercedes doing a double stack that still gets played from 2013 today. Mm-hmm. Like, this is the second time the situation clearly called for it. You had a gap. You had Oscar could come in, make a stop, no problem. Max goes by. Fine, Oscar's going to re-overtake him. And you had enough of a gap to where you got Lando in. You didn't have to do any of the weird Canada stuff you tried to pull a few years ago where Lando got called unsportsmanlike, which is still one of the stupidest penalties I've ever seen. But that's not what this rant is about. It was a double stack. That's what the situation screamed it. And again, tell me what the upside is, because I still don't see it.
The other thing, too, is that they committed both of their drivers to staying out. Yeah, I guess whoever stays out, if they had split the strategy and they brought one car in, that gets rid of the problem with being afraid of doing the double stack. And yeah, your driver that you left out is probably going to get some level of screwed, but at least you're not screwing both of them. But they decided, no, we're gonna fuck you both.
But then here's the bigger blunder, or not a bigger blunder, but it just goes on. Once it becomes clear in that second stint that the car doesn't have the lap time in it that it needs to do to make that strategy go, and you decide, okay, we're gonna box Piastri. I got it. That made sense. The right team move in that place is you leave Lando out there and you have him hold up Max, which he was finally starting to do. And you make Max overtake him on track. And if he can't do it by the time your tire allocation runs out, that's when you box him. And you put Lando on a set of softs, and you let the guy who's really good at overtaking, by the way, attempt some overtaking.
I had the same feeling during that part. I was like, because, they leave him out there, and you figured the strategy, like they were saying on the commentary, was, okay, they're going to do the full first stint on the mediums. They're going to do most of a stint on another set of mediums probably, and they're going to go to the end of the race on a shorter stint on the softs, where they're going to be able to really claw back some of that time because they're going to be on the optimal tire. But they bailed on that pretty quick because they brought in Oscar and pitted him much earlier than I expected, and they put him on hards. So then you're like, okay, well, they're not going for that anymore. And yeah, like you said, Max had caught up to Norris. And I was sitting there thinking like, shit, now he's got to get by him. I thought for sure he was going to hold up Max. And then they banned him like a couple laps later.
You get a tire deg race, you make Max eat as much dirty air as you can. And if Max gets around him, okay, then you box him right after that and you bail dead. But instead of that, now you find out Lando's all the way down to fifth.
Mm-hmm.
He's behind a great drive from Carlos Sainz. And taking advantage of the Mercedes double stack kind of blunder, not even a blunder, just the unfortunate consequence of Mercedes doing the double stack where they were in the pit lane, gives Carlos Sainz, who qualified seventh, now he's suddenly find himself in a podium position. And Kimi Antonelli, who we've seen do some great defense, and if it's not for Kimi Antonelli on his own, either it was a gust of wind or it was something, but he loses the car. He finds himself in the dirty part of the track, and he almost runs clear off the racetrack. All of a sudden, the timing just went Lando back up to fourth. I go, he was over a second behind. I go, what? Like, I almost didn't believe the timing screen. I go, how on earth did that happen? Then I had to wait the 45 minutes to see it on the onboard, and I went, oh, he just lost it. Maybe that becomes the saving grace that makes, at least now, Lando only has to finish in third as opposed to second, but and if nothing else, this should have been at least a 1-3. It should have really been a 1-2. I still don't get it. But anyway, congratulations. Now you got to fight in the next one, and we all got to go through this stupid thing.
Yep.
Unbelievable.
I keep telling myself, like, it still seems tough to do because Lando only has to finish on the podium, and that's if Max can win. But we really didn't think that was going to happen this weekend, and lo and behold, it did. So I guess anything is possible at this point.
I mean, the only thing that I've got is, if this was the dress rehearsal, boy, did you realize you got to go reread your lines. Good Lord. Woo.
The biggest thing that comes out of all this is McLaren has used up all the get out of jail free cards. They can't afford to screw up anymore.
Yep.
They're going to go into Abu Dhabi with this little itty bitty gap to Max, and they can't do anything wrong. They can't have either driver mess up in qualifying. They can't mess up any pit stops. They can't mess up the setup on the car. They have nothing left as a buffer. They have to get it perfect next weekend.
Or good enough. You got to get it good enough at least for the podium.
They have to get it good enough, but like good enough is pretty tight at this point. We're talking like either Piastri has to beat Max to the win, or if provided something happens to Lando, or Lando has to make it on the podium, which it should happen probably, but Mercedes is looking pretty good here.
And we're in the weird universe where weird stuff can happen, and Nicholas Latifi can come out of retirement and drive for Williams next weekend. Who knows?
They're now putting everyone at that team under the maximum pressure.
Right.
The drivers are going to be under maximum pressure. The pit crew is going to be under max pressure. Strategy, everything is now under the gun to get it just right. And that wears on you. They're going to be pretty stressed out going into this next race, not wanting to blow it. And that could really have an effect on them too.
Yeah. I mean, the only saving grace is it's not a sprint weekend, because sprint weekends are kind of a bit of a roulette reel where you try an initial setup, and if you can't get it right, you're really have to chase it all weekend long. So you've got your 3 practice sessions. It shouldn't be as windy as Qatar certainly was. Could still be dusty. So there's always a weather something or other. But anyway, enough about that. We'll take you through the finishing order. I don't really know. I kind of blacked out at the end of the race. Like I really didn't know who finished where for a while. But your back markers were Nico Hulkenberg, obviously from the crash. Ali Behrman, who retired on lap 41. Your classified finishers were Isaac Hadjar in P18. P17 was Lance Stroll. P16, Pierre Gasly. P15, Esteban Ocon. P14, Franco Colapinto. And P13 was Gabby Bortoleto. Your midfield finishers were P12, Lewis Hamilton. P11, Alex Albon. P10, rallying a little bit from his qualifying here, Yuki Tsunoda. The second Red Bull car actually liked this track. I would say it on merit. P9 was Liam Lawson. P8, Charles Leclerc. P7, Fernando Alonso. P6, George Russell. P5, Kimi Antonelli. P4 ended up being where Lando Norris finished. The feel-good story of the day, Lando's misfortune turns into Carlos Sainz's gain. P3, Carlos Sainz, his second podium on the season in a year. He never would have figured that was going to happen. So good on Williams for that. P2 was Oscar Piastri. He had some mega laps at the end, but it was not enough. 7.99 seconds adrift of the guy who just raced and won the race. Didn't have to do anything because they didn't make him do anything. Max Verstappen in the Red Bull, 1 hour, 24 minutes. And now we got a whole title thing coming down to the end. There we go. I wish I could. There are recordings I can try to hide my emotions in it. I can't. I've been trying to figure out how I'm going to do this tonight. And it's just, I was just absolutely apoplectic. Don't really know what else to say.
Yeah. Well, before we move on to the break and all that, I feel like it's probably be a good time to mention some frustrations I had with the world surrounding Kimi Antonelli.
Oh, well, yeah.
Because let's just say the world's social media, it really sucks. It really gives too many assholes a platform to show how much of an asshole they are. And we were talking about how, Lando Norris got by Kimi Antonelli at the very end of the race, getting him what could be a pivotal 2 points, because it means that if Max wins the race, he only has to finish third instead of second to secure the championship. So it is pivotal. But the world of social media ended up tearing Kimi Antonelli apart to the point of purported death threats, which, you never want to see that shit.
I didn't realize it got
and
I'm not
what
surprised.
Wow. What really gets me with this, though, is how much all of this was teed up. You had David Coulthard saying bullshit during the commentary about how, maybe he's going to let the McLaren by because they want, that Mercedes engine to win the championship. So you got David Coulthard making crap up, on the spot there and broadcasting that to the world to make it seem like, oh yeah, he might let him by. So when it does happen, that's the first thing in everybody's mind. It also doesn't help that you then broadcast the message from GP to Max saying, oh, it looked like Antonelli just let him by. What the hell? When he really hadn't completely seen what had happened yet. The TV direction doesn't show you the part where Kimi Antonelli loses control of the car at that point. You just see him way wide, and it does kind of make it look like he's just letting him by. It wasn't until quite a bit after they actually show him getting loose, and maybe some people have turned off the broadcast by then. And then, the icing on the cake is you've got Helmut Marko saying whatever Helmut Marko says about that he let up and he just let him by, which all you have to do is watch the replay. That's not true. Total Wolff went pretty much flat out on the on interviews saying, what the hell is wrong with you guys thinking that we would ever throw it like that? Of course we don't want to just let them by. And, there's so much evidence as to why they wouldn't want to let them by. For one thing, you got a customer team beating your works team. That's not a great look, even if your engine is actually winning the championship. And it's just not, it's not in the spirit of, the competition. So
McLaren has
good reason.
McLaren has no Mercedes branding on that car. It is as pure a customer supply deal as you can get. There's no sharing of other than the obligatory data between the teams. It's none of that. It's never worked like that. And McLaren has to buy every engine. If it wrecks an engine, it's got to go buy one. They don't give them one. And to think that Toto Wolff is going to, this is now my chance for grand revenge when I'm, what is it? 200 or 400 points down in the constructors, or I mean, Mercedes is going to be P2 more than likely, but they're still, even after this, over 30 points up on Mercedes. That's what's going to happen, and you're going to tell your driver to sack that when you're trying to secure P2 in the constructors? There's no way.
Yeah. That's why, like, I can see, conspiracy theorists going to town on something like this and being like, oh, you want to buy? But like I said, what really kills me with this is how F1 broadcast teed up this kind of behavior by saying like stuff like that could happen before it did, and then giving the platform to, like, they didn't have to broadcast that GP message. They're just trying to stir the pot, and it's caused, a poor, really talented kid who's, a pretty big Max fan himself, to get way too much online abuse.
I mean, it's so bad that I've actually seen Red Bull has issued a statement saying that GP's comments were out of context. GP himself...
Yep, they were in the heat of the moment.
Right. GP himself physically went to the Mercedes garage and himself apologized to Toto Wolff and to Kimi Antonelli personally for that. I know that that's happened. It's been reported that it's happened. Yeah. The search for clicks is a fun thing. And sometimes we're in the business of it. Well, we're not really in the business of it because we don't do it for money, but you're de facto in the business for it by doing this and putting it out there. And it's just, it can turn ugly. And this was a situation that turned a lot more ugly than it ever really had to. So I agree with you wholeheartedly. And thank you as a Red Bull fan for saying that. It's important. All right. Well, we will leave this here. We will take a break. We'll re-rack. I will compose myself for now. We'll come back. We'll tell you what this did to the driver standings. Be still my beating heart. We'll tell you what this did to the team standings. We'll then open it up to your takes on the weekend. We've got all three of our regulars back for the fan email segment, so it could get interesting there. We'll hand out some awards, and if you're not sure what some of these awards are going to be, you haven't been paying attention. We'll put it there. And then we will try to set this up as best we can. The championship finale, 3 drivers, 3-1 does not work. One is going to come out ahead at the end of this at approximately 9 a.m.-ish Chicago time. We're going to have someone going to be dubbed a world champion. Let's see how weird we can make it. But anyway, come on back. We'll get into it.
You are listening to the Outlap F1 podcast, and we'll be right back after this quick pit stop. Grab your flu powder, broomstick, or apparate to your favorite audio streaming service to join the discussion on Hogwarts, a podcast, where Dan and his friends have in-depth chapter-by-chapter breakdowns of each Harry Potter novel. Join the group as they dive into the magical world and discuss plot points, analyze character development, and occasionally go off the rails. Whether you're a muggle who's new to the series or a pure-blood wizard who won't need a remember-all, Hogwarts, a podcast, brings everyone to the Great Hall for a magical discussion. Hogwarts, a podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts.
All right, welcome back on in. This is Season 7, episode number 46 of the Outlap F1 podcast. It's our 2025 Qatar GP review show. You've got Andy and I'm along with Cody tonight, and we just wrapped up talking about the GP that was the Qatar GP. But what does all this do to those driver standings? I imagine it gets them a lot closer. We probably all know the math by now, but Cody, if you want to take us through the top 10, there's some interesting stuff at the bottom of the top 10. We all pretty much know the top part of it, but you do the drivers, I'll handle the teams.
One race to go. Lando Norris still leads the driver standings for McLaren. He's at 408 points, but Max Verstappen is now in second place in the driver standings for Red Bull, only 12 points behind Lando Norris at 396 points, and only 4 points behind him is Oscar Piastri with the other McLaren at 392 points. So all three of those drivers still eligible to win the Drivers' Championship, and I have seen just about every permutation of how this could go. That's the thing on social media right now is, oh, well, if this happens, Oscar will win. If this happens, Max is going to win. I've seen like literal tables of like how all the different finishing positions could go, and it's pretty ridiculous. But those are the three that are still in it. George Russell is sitting in 4th place for Mercedes at 309 points. Charles Leclerc in 5th place for Ferrari at 230 points. Was Hamilton holding on to 6th place in the other Ferrari, 152 points, but now only 2 points behind him. The person who took over his seat at Mercedes, Kimi Antonelli, in 7th place for the other Mercedes at 150 points. Alex Albon, who's had a bit of a rough go lately, needs to be said, is in 8th place for Williams at 73 points. And Carlos Sainz, who has had, on the complete opposite end, a fantastic run over the second half of the season. Carlos Sainz is now only 9 points behind Alexander Albon and the other Williams, sitting at 64 points. And wrapping up the top 10 is Isaac Hadjar for Racing Bulls at 51 points.
Yep, that P10 is still going to be crazy. I'm not sure who's going to finish there. I mean, Fernando Alonso's got a chance at it. There's a couple drivers who, Nico Hulkenberg, could still get back into it if he has a good result. So all to play for, lots to play for. Nobody is going to take this one off for sure, because everybody's got some sort of skin in the game coming into this finale. As for the constructors, we now know some more positions of some of these teams. They're kind of pretty much mathematically locked in. We know P1 will be McLaren. They are up to 800 points on the season. P2 more than likely will be Mercedes, but that's not necessarily set in stone yet. They're up to 459. P3 is Red Bull. They will not finish lower than P3. They are up to 426. P4, that one we have locked in. That's Ferrari. They will go no further. Even if they were to get a 1-2 in Abu Dhabi, it would not be enough to get them out of P4, which is where they will finish. P5 also locked in. We've been saying it for a very long time. We figured Williams was going to finish there. That is now a mathematical certainty. They will finish in P5. P6 and below, it's pretty much still all up to play for. Some weird things could happen. Who knows? But P6 right now, currently Racing Bulls on 92 points. P7, Aston Martin on 80. P8 is Haas on 73. And P9, Kick Sauber on 68. Those teams could all potentially swap around a little bit, given if there was absolute madness in Abu Dhabi, which, given this season, I'm not putting anything out of the realm at this point. P10, they will be the best, worst team ever. That is Alpine on 22 points. They could still obviously score some more points, but it will not be enough to get them out of P10 in the constructors. All right. Well, I figured with this race, we'd have some good comments. I expected nothing less. And our emailers have delivered, as they always tend to do. Cody, we'll start with Rachel Fleming. We've got our three regulars, Rachel Fleming, Dave Doherty, and Mr. Formula has chimed in as well. Cody, we'll start with Rachel. What you got?
Thank you, Rachel, for your email. And Rachel says, for the second weekend in a row, McLaren give a victory to Max. Why didn't they pit him with the safety car? It's almost like they want so much fairness that they want neither driver to win the title. I think they have to favor Lando now. One race left. Oscar is in third. I would call it if they want either driver to win the championship. Another top result for Sainz and Williams. Sainz has had an incredible second half of the season, another top drive, and I still believe Ferrari made the wrong call by dropping him and signing Hamilton. Zawatch got points and was part of the DRS train. I would actually go so far to say for a while there, Alonso was the conductor of the DRS train. Sauberwatch, the Gasly versus Nico moment, which caused McLaren's downfall, was a racing incident. Gabriel was really nowhere all race, to be honest. What a finale we will have, but McLaren caused it all by themselves again. And Sauber are guaranteed at least ninth in the championship, which I guess is an improvement on them. They're not going to be in dead last, which is a really good thing. I guess the thing I want to start with here is that Sainz result. Second podium for Sainz this year. I really wasn't sure that Williams was going to get any podiums or anywhere that close to the front. Sainz has done that for them twice now with two really good drives. It really has been kind of a tale of two halves for both drivers at Williams. Obviously, Albon was tearing it up the first half of the season, getting consistent points, and Carlos Sainz seemed to have really bad luck more often than not, or just wasn't getting used to the Williams car setup, what have you. And in the second half of the season, it's completely turned around. Now, Alex Albon seems to have all the really poor luck. He's retired so many times and, had poor qualifying and this and that. And on the other side of that, Carlos Sainz has started to get really good points and has gotten the two podiums to the point where they're now only 9 points apart. Now, I feel like that would be a pretty big blow to Albon's confidence if Carlos Sainz ends up really, really close to him or even past him. I mean, it could happen. He just scored 15 points in this last race, so it is actually possible that he could pass up Alex Albon in points, or at the very least, catch right up to him. And considering, this has been Alex Albon's team for a couple years now, and Sainz is the newcomer, I don't think that would reflect terribly well. But he definitely had a good first half of the season. So I think Williams is in a really, really good place for next year. We talked about before how they're probably focusing all their development. They haven't really developed this car in a long time. They're focusing all the development onto next year's car. They've got two really talented, hungry drivers who have both shown their stuff at different points in the year for this team. So I think they're going to sit really pretty.
Yeah, I mean, it tells me that James Vowles has gotten the pieces in place. And they, for not even putting a whole lot of development, designed a pretty darn good base car. That's what that kind of tells me. Like, they have been punching above where everyone would have put them the entire season. And it's been pretty consistent that one of them has had a decent run of it. Unfortunately, they can't seem to figure out how to get both drivers to do it at the same time, but they can at least get one of them. But as Carlos Sainz has, I think, used his experience, he's gotten around the things with the car. He's worked with the engineers. It's very collaborative, the environment that Vowles has put together. I think they are a team to watch coming out of the gate next year. I think you could see them move shock, like maybe P3 in the constructors early, maybe P2 in the constructors early. They may come out and put a blinder on and be the team to beat next year. I mean, they've got the Mercedes power unit, and that seems to be part of what's you would expect to see the winning equation next year. So, yeah, there's nothing about how that team goes racing that I mean, it's I'm sure it's maddeningly inconsistent for both of the drivers. Where, like, why does one have the feel when the other doesn't, and vice versa? But yeah, I mean, you got to think that they are happy and overjoyed. And Carlos Sainz has got to be thrilled that he ended up going where he ended up after not having, you're talking about this time last year, you really didn't know what his future was going to hold. And he was the holdout and hold up of all of the driver movement. He finally decides, looks like he made a good decision, is what that tells me.
Yep, I agree. One of the other things I want to talk about here is that Rachel did say that she thinks that McLaren has to favor Lando now at this point with the way the championship standings are coming to be. In fact, there's only one race left. And I think it really comes down to where they're at in the race and what stands to be gained or lost. If it comes down to something like Max is going to win the race and Oscar is in a position to give up the spot to Lando, so Lando wins the championship, or, if he could slow other guys down to help out Lando. Yeah, I think under that situation, I think the team for sure will ask him to do that. And I have to imagine that he will. Yeah, he's not happy with the decisions that have been made. He's, not probably happy with, we've seen it in commentary and all that they don't really seem to want to favor either driver, or maybe they're kind of like secretly favoring Lando. I don't really know. But I would think that if they asked, Oscar would help Lando to win, because it's not only him that's getting screwed, if he doesn't play ball, he's screwing kind of the whole team. Yeah, they've got the constructors wrapped up, but they really want that double, and you're really letting your whole team down, who has built you a really, really good car and gotten you, forget how many, 7 wins for Oscar at this point. You're really letting your team down if you don't play ball at that point. If it's between, Lando winning and neither of you winning, like, I think that's what he's got to do.
I think they are going to play very coy until maybe even after qualifying. And it is probably only after qualifying that you're even going to be able to ask, because from what I've already seen of what they've put out, they pretty much said, we're going to continue to do what we do unless it becomes apparent that the only way to win the championship is for Oscar to give up a position to do it. I think that's the only case where it happens.
I'm sure they're hoping that they're going to go into this last race and Lando's going to get pulled and just romp away with the win, and they won't have to
do what
even
he did
touch
do what he did last year and win from pole and not have to worry about any of it. Where it will get nutty is if, let's say, Max is P1, Oscar's P2, Lando's P3. He only needs P3, and we're coming up on pit stops. Who do you give the priority to then? The rules would indicate that you would give it to Oscar, that he would make the call on when he would get to stop. The other thing that you might see happen, and I've thought about this in the 24 hours since the checkered flag did fall and I threw my hat, was if Max is in the lead, does Max do what Lewis Hamilton did a few years ago, which is drive
absolutely
very slowly?
He's going to fight tooth and nail
to keep either Piastri or someone in DRS, with the hope of that someone else comes into DRS and can, So there's a whole lot of scenario that can happen. But the best thing for McLaren is Lando gets on pole. He leads after the first corner, and he can hopefully drive off and kind of do what he did. But I don't know what the Abu Dhabi race distance is, but it's however many 300 plus kilometers, and a whole lot can happen between turn 1 and the end of the race, and we all know that. So yeah, I'm going to have to ride this thing. I've seriously thought about, should I just take a sleeping pill and wake up afterwards, read the headline, and then do it? But no, I'm not going to do that. I will be there. I will not be live tweet. I will do the same thing that I always do on Twitter. I'll set it up, and after that, I go dark until it's over. And even then, until they post the point standings, because I don't believe anything is done. Because the only positive thing I can say for McLaren this weekend is, hey, we didn't get DSQ'd. So progress, I guess. But yeah, it's Rachel, you nailed it. I mean, I can't really say anything more to your points than what you've already done. I'm very happy for Carlos Sainz, if nothing else. But we're going to see what McLaren do. The ball is clearly in their court. It's on them. They got to execute it now.
I agree. Our next email comes in from Dave Doherty. Thank you, Dave. And he says, hi, team. Do you think Lando should have won the championship? And what are your thoughts since Max won today? Well, we've definitely covered the second half of that pretty thoroughly. And that I'm happy as clam, and I didn't think it was going to happen. And Andy is kind of bent out of shape when he should be. So,
well, to your question about Lando, I did not think after qualifying that Lando was going to win the championship. Or sometimes I woke up and I just didn't have a good feeling. I thought what we were going to see was Oscar win the race, Lando maybe come home second, and then it's just on between the two of them. It would have taken something, well, I would have said it would have taken something weird, but other than self-inflicted weird, it would have taken something very weird to have somehow Lando get in front of Oscar, especially given Oscar's pace, without the benefit of leading after turn 1 in clean air. I thought Oscar was hooked up, and he might have even had a go at Lando at some point too.
Yeah, I totally agree with how good Oscar was looking this weekend. He got a great start off the line. I didn't think at that point, I didn't think Lando was going to secure the championship this weekend. I thought he had a really good chance at eliminating Max from contention, or at the very least, finishing right behind Max and pretty much leaving it to Lando having to retire from the next race for Max to win. But yeah, that's not how it played out. Now it's all to play for in the last race.
Well, thank you, Dave. We appreciate you contributing to the show. Feel free to do so. I will respond to some stuff if you post it during the weekend. But once that lights go out, I'm just gonna warn you, dark.
You might not hear from Andy for a little while, no matter what happens. Yeah. But I guarantee you that if Max wins, it's going to be a little while.
I may blow my vocal cords out if this goes the right way, or at least the way that I want it to go. But I think I have to kind of do what Lando does and just say you can't even think about it. You just got to go out and do your thing. Do it like you always do. So that's what I'm going to try to do.
Thank you, Dave. Our last one comes in from the Formula. Thank you, Mr. Formula. And he says, you know what would be crazy if turn 1 in Abu Dhabi, Lando and Max both go for a crazy move, take each other out, and Oscar scoots on to win the championship against all odds. McLaren can't pick between Lando or Oscar, so they've chosen Max. Yep, a lot of loaded statements there. As far as the crazy bit goes, it could go crazy in any direction. It's going to be primetime television if all three of them qualify at the very front again. They could crash out in any combination. You could have Lando and Oscar take each other out and leave it to Max. You could have Max and Lando take each other out and leave it to Oscar. You could have Lando romp away with it because his two closest competitors take each other out. It could really go in any direction from there as far as the crazy lap 1 shenanigans, or maybe nothing will happen. I don't see too much point in thinking about it too hard. The same reason why I haven't really looked into all the different permutations as to who's going to win, who finishes where. And that's because but you don't know what's going to happen. There's so many ways it could turn out. It's only going to turn out one way. So
I mean, I'll really start thinking about it maybe 4 laps from the end is okay, is this really where we are? And are we in, our McLaren, are we in position to do this? And if not, then, start pacing and throwing stuff out windows. But, we'll see.
I think it is respectable to a point that McLaren is really trying to do the 2 number 1 drivers thing as fairly as they can. But the fact that they've gone down that path the entire season has put them in a bit of a tough position. So yeah, I wouldn't go so far as to say that they can't pick between them, so they've chosen Max. But if they had picked Lando like 3 races ago,
Well, you can say
actually,
the
I
same
don't think
thing.
that would
You can
even
say
really
the
help
same
that
thing
much.
for Oscar after Zandvoort when it was 34
Yeah.
points, that they just should have done it then. But
Yeah.
they've made that decision. All of the stuff that I read and have read have all said that they're gonna, if they are, I hate to say it, they're okay with letting this thing run down their leg if it means that their philosophy is their philosophy. So whether you like it or not, this is what we're gonna get. And you're not going to see it until it is clear in one way or another that there's only one way to win. And then they'll do it. But if there's not, you're not going to see it. It's just not going to happen. Don't look for it. Don't expect it, because I'm not going to, because they're not going to do it.
They're not.
They've decided this is who they are, good or bad.
They're not going to do team orders or anything like that until it's at the very end, and that is the nuclear option. That's the only thing left they can do to win, and then they'll do it.
Right. All right.
Thank you everyone for your emails. Again, we like hearing from you, and I'm sure we're going to hear from you after Abu Dhabi for no matter what direction it goes. So looking forward to it.
Yep. We have all my own annoyance at my team aside. Thank you guys for contributing. Your points are well taken and well valid, and we appreciate all of the interaction with you guys all the time. All right, so we will move into our awards. We will start with the rubbish. I'll go first on this one. It's not quite what you think. I'm saving that for the next one for obvious reasons. But anyway, my whole bit is why, if Formula One is supposed to have the best engineers, and Pirelli are supposed to have the best tire engineers, and this is the pinnacle of motorsport, why we can't design tires that can do a race here without some sort of outside intervention is kind of beyond me. Something ain't right about this track, and you're all just not looking at it. You're just not choosing not to see, and you're putting blinders on and going, oh, well, we're just going to do it because Qatari gave you lots of money. And from a sporting context, it's really stupid, and it really sucks.
Yeah, I'm not even really sure it's that the best engineers in the world can't design tires to do a race here. I think it's that they designed 5, this year 6 tires to be used at literally every other track on the calendar. And they just don't want to design a special set of like C0 or C negative ones to be used at Qatar. And they look at this track and they're like, this is a weird one out. And,
it's cheaper to do this.
Powers that be say you're going to go race there anyway.
Right.
Tires be damned.
It's cheaper to do this than do anything else. So in the pinnacle of motorsport, we don't want to spend the gobs and gobs of money that we're clearly making and taking from you and me, the fan, all the time. Annoyed. Cody, what you got?
My rubbish award goes to the sprint race, or kind of maybe the track in general, which I guess kind of leans toward your rubbish award. The sprint race was really boring. I barely paid attention to it after the first couple of laps. I pretty much just kept an ear to it in case somebody crashed, but that did not happen. It's really hard to overtake here. There's not enough DRS. There's not a lot of good passing zones because, best passing zones in Formula One are braking zones, long DRS zones. This track has neither of those. There's a lot of medium, high speed corners, not a lot of really hard braking zones. Like you said, one DRS zone that is not long enough to really do anything with. So it's really hard to overtake. And you get a lot of stuff where everyone just kind of gets stuck where they qualified. And in the sprint race, you don't have any pit strategy, which would be the one saving grace you would have at a track like this. Yeah, that led to a really boring sprint. I don't think they should have a sprint here. I don't think they have a sprint here next year, which is probably good. But overall, I think that probably shouldn't have Formula One race here at all. Let's just stick
to the MotoGP track. And as a MotoGP track, it's awesome. I look forward to Qatar on the MotoGP calendar every year, usually because it's one of the first races, and it's usually a banger because you've got lean angle and those long, flowy corners let MotoGP bikes, which are yay thin, use the entire length and width of the track. Formula One cars in this iteration, they're too wide, too heavy, too big. I was going to say too dumb to make the overtakes here. They just kind of are. It's just kind of what it is.
That's the sporting regulations that are too dumb.
Yes. Why did we shorten the DRS zone? It's another thing. I just don't understand it, but whatever. Anyway, all right. Time for analysis paralysis. This one's pretty obvious. I've already kind of ranted on it twice. Explain to me, McLaren, what is working. Let's just say you didn't have what happened and all other 18 cars come in. I want to know what I would want to ask whoever made that call. What does it give you that put you in an advantageous spot versus what happened, which put you clearly at a clear disadvantage? I don't understand the calculus or the calculation of what went on there. So explain it to me like I'm 5. I'll listen. I promise to listen, but I can't see it. And when I can't see it, it's bad. So clearly, analysis paralysis here.
Totally agree with you. This one goes to the McLaren strategy blunder. They took a race that they should have had in the bag, and they said, no, thank you. We would like to take this down to Abu Dhabi, please. So for your sake, I hope that the strategy blunders and plankwear blunders and anything else like that, I hope that's all over for Abu Dhabi and that Max can go in it.
And to the people that the conspiracy theorists out there that like, oh, they're favoring Lando and not favoring Oscar. Here's what I'm going to tell you. And the shot of the McLaren garage and all that other stuff goes out the window. You want to know how I know? 1.8 second pit stop for Oscar Piastri with those same mechanics. Check yourself if that's what you honestly think. They might have screwed it up, but it wasn't the rest. Everybody other than the strategy was on it this weekend. It just was bad. All right. Dark horse of the day. Let's just talk about something positive. Carlos Sainz, forgetting dark horse of the day for me, I thought was great. If we're gonna hand it off, I'd rather hand it off to at least a familiar face. Carlos Sainz is doing well at Williams. It's good to see. I think Williams are going to do pretty good next year. Now that James Vowles has got that team kind of all pointed in the right direction. So good to see.
Yep, I totally agree. Carlos Sainz getting a second podium of the year for Williams definitely is dark horse material. Did get a little lucky with it. He qualified really well and put himself in that spot. He got by, what was that? He got by Fernando Alonso right at the start. And then got a little lucky during the wild and crazy everyone pits sequence. I managed to get in front of the Mercedes cars there because of their double stack. But he had to do the rest. He had to hold off Kimi Antonelli. He had to hold off Kimi Antonelli and really Lando Norris there at the end, and was able to do it, which shows that, they had good enough car to do that. So, definitely goes to Carlos Sainz.
Yep. All right. Last award is for driver of the day. I guess I'll set this one up because I think how you got this is basically what happened. I'm going to give this one to Oscar Piastri because he should have won this easily. He clearly was, I think, the best driver on balance for the weekend, but the result doesn't necessarily reflect that because
my driver of the day is Max Verstappen, who did win this race easily, despite clearly not having the car with the best pace. Yes, it was gifted to him, but he had to be there to capitalize on it. And he and the team managed to put the car in a good enough place to qualify P3, got by Lando at the beginning, and was able to capitalize on that McLaren strategy blunder. I don't think they had it in them with the strategy they were doing to ever catch back up to him, but they didn't even really get that close. So once he had that clean air, he made it work. And that's why he's driver of the day.
All right, very good. We would normally talk about predictions, but we did not do any. So, which is probably just as well. I assume, Cody, you probably would have plastered me given where I would have put cars. Maybe I'd have gotten P2 because I probably would have had Lando, Oscar, Max, but
might have got pole.
Yeah.
You might have gotten both pole.
Maybe the lap times. I don't know. We didn't really do it. Again, apologies. We couldn't necessarily do a preview. It's just Thanksgiving weekend. The United States is just crazy between the Wednesday and then you got family stuff and then the next day of family stuff and then the Sunday of family stuff. There's just a lot of things pulling at both of us. Yes, exactly. And so, some of our members of the family aren't feeling well, so we're making sure that they're okay. And just a lot of stuff happening this past week. So that all being said, we are going to do an Abu Dhabi preview. I promise to have more positive energy going into that one as we set up what is going to be the title fight. Round 24, the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix awaits. That is our last stop in this epic F1 season. Gonna ride the roller coaster, man. Good, bad, or indifferent. Here we go. Any final thoughts before we hop on out?
It's just that I am very excited now for the title showdown. I definitely think Lando is still, he's still in the position to win it all. He's got a good enough gap that, he still has a little bit of space to play with. But I think that, I'll probably talk about this on our preview too. I think with how close it's gotten, if Max doesn't win, she likely might not. yeah, I'll be disappointed, but at least I can be really happy with how close it's gotten. And so at least, thank you, McLaren, for giving me that satisfaction.
I would love to say you're welcome, but no, I can't do that. Yeah, well, hopefully, here's what I hope. I just hope that, I honestly hope that was the dress rehearsal. And okay, you botched the dress rehearsal. You kind of sort of botched the dress rehearsal with the constructors last year too, where you really could have won it at this race and you didn't. And then you got to Abu Dhabi and Lando stepped up and won from pole and did it. That's what it's going to take. The good news is, I always go back. I go reset to macro. Lando's still 12 points up. I'd much rather be ahead in this than behind. I trust Lando as a driver. I have to do that. That's where my head has to go. If I've ridden all of these onboard laps with this kid throughout his entire freaking career, I got to trust he's going to be able to do one more to close the show. And he doesn't even have to win. That's the thing. You don't have to win. You just got to mind your P's and Q's, stay out of trouble, come home P3. All you got to do. I've talked about winning ugly. I didn't want it to be this ugly. Didn't really mean it that way. But if you win it, this frustration will go away and I'll be beaming smile from ear to ear no matter what. But anyway, we're going to ride this roller coaster, like I said from the beginning, all the way down to the checkered flag in Abu Dhabi. So that's where we're going. That's what we're going to do. Stand by for a preview. Cody, I appreciate you letting me vent and yet being my therapist yet again. I feel a little bit better about things. Not really, but just a little bit, at least in my head, I tried to. But anyway, we'll be back. And we're going to do this again next week for the Abu Dhabi Grand Finale. So again, as always, take care of yourselves out there. And as always, may all your laps be fast.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Outlap F1 podcast. If you like what you heard, click that subscribe button and be sure to leave us a 5-star review. If you want to connect with us outside of the show, check out our website at www.outlapf1.com. Find us on Twitter and Instagram at OutlapF1 Podcast, or email us at chatnow@outlapf1.com. As always, thank you so much for your support, and we'll see you on the next one.